offer you...
it's okay, it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing.
So,
you show that you are
rational.
not rational.
Yeah,
This is the conclusion.
No, not at all. I just want to try to determine with you what is the basis of political and democratic decision.
I think it's a problem because you start from an experiment which claim that people are, just focused in a semantic context related to money. But if you put your experiment, a live experiment, in a context in which we are discussing a topic which is in another sphere, involving system of value.
Just let me to finish my stupid experiment, please.
No, it's not that I say that it's stupid.
It's a little bit stupid because it's very reduced perspective. Okay?
It's the semantic.
No, it's not in the semantic. Let me tell you why we use money. We use money because in this field of research, people consider that putting people to think what you do with, it's some kind of stupid issue. Yes, we know like psychologists that asking what you do if I cut your hand. Elicit answer for you, but it's not really a realistic one. You don't really know what you do if a crazy man come and really cut your hand. You just imagine. So for these reasons, we prefer to say we need real situation. And for example, I run this experiment with my students, with almost 500 students, and they work one day in a bad condition just to earn the money to be split. So they really fight for the money, okay? It wasn't easy go, easy come, easy go, okay? And they need after that to make proposals. Okay? So the idea behind this is exactly that. If I propose you €1, you have to think just in this context, just very unique context, that one is better than nothing. Okay? And to say, yes, I agree. Because if you say, no, I disagree.
I'm disagreeing.
Yeah, of course.
I disagree.
You are like almost 87% of the Arab population. Don't worry about that. Okay.
But I have a question. It's impossible to do a conversation. It's yes or not. So
This
if I say
scenario
no,
is yes or not, and after that we have following interviews to see how the people think and what they are doing, what they decide to do. We don't run it with everybody, but we run it with subject like our colleagues who say, I will take 0. Okay? And we want to see what is happening then, because we have a rational decision. This is an ethical decision. 100% ethical decision.
Why ethical? Why is it ethical?
Because the money came from nowhere, we split it, and because, and this is the problem. What means because?
Yes.
We make it 50-50, and because it is outside of the context, outside of the decision.
You know what? I will refuse. You offer me a little bit, which is better than nothing. But I refuse because you Romanians eat too much garlic. I don't like you. So I lose a bit, but I'm very happy, rationally happy that you lose too. And so I'm the winner.
But you don't know that I'm Romanian. You don't know. You don't know who is your peer.
You don't look like one of ours, so I don't like you. You guys are just a little bit better than the French. And it's not a compliment.
Yes, I think that, Alessandro, you are right, because research shows that 90% of choices is 50-50. This is the game about fairness.
No, I
Yes.
apologize. No,
Yes.
90% of the choices.
Yes, of course.
No.
Yeah.
Very few.
No, absolutely not. I did research, international research on this, and all
Even
research
the
show
experts
that
don't agree.
but this is the question about fairness in good distribution, and people are not very much economic. This is the question: if human beings are economics, I mean that if we are homo economicus.
I apologize.
This is a representation that
this
you
is
want
not
to have of
this
the
is not a
human
fight.
being.
This is
I
a
can
presentation.
have a different.
Just be so kind and give me the opportunity to comment.
Yes,
Okay, you take the opportunity.
Go back to Romania.
Just to return to the
Many
beginning,
research
it was not
shows
your
that-
turn to have a presentation. You said, this is your turn because you saw us the problem of patriotism and nationalism. And you started to speak about game theory, presenting a human,
I think
economic,
it
and rational thing that has nothing to do
Yeah.
with our...
Because like in the real life, in scientific life also, we are not enough patient to hear the other voices. We are very patient when the voices who speak,
Okay,
it's
I'm
like
not
our
sure.
voices, and to say yes, okay, I agree that, it's like, I think, okay, and we are very, very patient, not very attentive, but patient.
Okay,
When
I'm
somebody-
not patient, but I know that, you know, you had a norm that you were also not very patient because your turn was in the afternoon, as I know.
No. At
It was
the
last
ask of
time.
Irina, I ran the last presentation today, and just before she finished, I asked Alexandro if it's the moment to run the presentation or we go to have a lunch. I apologize for this, hidden information. It's for this reason that this presentation is now, not because I'm not patient. Okay?
If you want your data, we have it connected whenever you want.
Yes, we have absolutely different opinions about this dictatorship game. That is why I usually don't participate in this game, because opinions are controversial, but here we give space for any ideas until they violate somebody.
Now, what is interesting here is that we have an experiential proof that even experts sharing the same field of interest as they have a polarized and controversial view, and so experimental are never the Bible. So
Nothing is the Bible.
It depends
Except
on
the
our
Bible.
trust
Except
or
the
not. No, this is interesting. It depends on our trust or not.
Riportiamolo là che se no non fregano le slide. Ah, cava prima quella a fare, che poi riportiamo la telecamera.
Also what Alessandro told about explanation, because not only choice but explanation is very important. Why do this? And do we have what is the rule of good distribution? For instance, paying taxes. This is the question about paying taxes. Is it rational? We don't like paying taxes, but in fact taxes are for common goods. So this experiment, in fact, has many relationships to political life between economic and politics. So,
And this can also refer to corruption behavior.
yes, absolutely.
It does. The best, in my opinion, the best researcher in the corruption behavior or in cheating, stealing behavior, it's Dan O'Reilly from MIT. I hope you know the name at least. It's a very nice researcher and it's a very nice presenter. His public presentations are really inspiring a lot of people. Okay?
Discussion about this task, we have so many directions for thinking. For example, my students ask, who give us the money? And really give. And it is the thinking about the realistic or unrealistic situation. And what we can do when we take the money. Maybe we agree 0 and 100, and after we have an inner conversation without investors. And any other decision, what we choose, what the best in situation, and other direction of the thinking, because this is task for thinking training, as nationalism is includes in this thinking, because when I think who give us the money,
If this money are earned or taken, for instance, if I put effort to earn this money.
In all valid experiments, the money are earned. If you run this kind of experiment without earning the money, without giving the opportunity to fight for the money, the experiment is considered to be unvalid.
Indeed, it's not earned.
not distribution.
Work. So deserve the money. Okay, just give me a chance to arrive. I'm very happy that you really involved in the discussion. Probably.
Warm up.
I think that, like Sandro presented in the morning, our meaning here is not to just present something that we are doing at home, but probably raise a kind of awareness and group identity in order to do something together. And for this reason, I prefer to, find out a little bit, because just having this kind of discussion will be a little bit sad. On the other hand, we have a very big problem in Europe. You have it in Ukraine. It's also a big problem in the United States and everywhere, that the discussion in the professional groups are very elitistic. So we are very familiar with data, with statistics, with all the very nice research that Irina and you all are running, but we have big problem with going outside our rooms and convince the political figure that they can learn something from us, or better to go outside and try to convince citizens that we can really do valuable things for the regular life, not just for science, for review, for Scopus, and for these kind of things. And I prefer to start like that, because without probably mentioning, we expect that things linked with state, politics, and institution be rational. We expect that. We expect that the state take our money in taxes and in things like so, and rationally invest it, weighted what to do with the money. It's a highway, or it's a hospital, or it's things like so. We exteriorize this rationality needs to others, but look, when somebody comes here and say, hey, you are Homo economicus, you say, no, we aren't. We are more complex than Homo economicus. We are more complex than rational people. And I agree with that. I'm just teasing you. I have the same opinion. I don't believe that we are just rational. This is just an experimental framework to decide something about human mind, but it's not human mind. What is behind everything? Behind discussion regarding, for example, difference between nationalism and patriotism are some kind of magic things called values. Okay? Without values, we don't have any semantic context. We are just what? I don't know. We are just living persons. Okay? If we establish the values, we have a better guideline. You say very well, hey, fairness is not fair to take 99. What is fairness? To be very honest, some kind of last decade research decides that a part of our social rules are not so characteristic for all the human life, for all the forms of life. So they are not really adapted. The basic behavior, not the human, the basic animal behavior, it's to survive, okay? So to gain your life, to take your food, to take your water, and up to that, probably we are now human and socials. human because we have values. And in many, many contexts, we forgot that that's the meaning of being human emotions. And then, of course, yes, interest, this is interest, pure interest. It doesn't exist pure interest. It doesn't exist pure values. It doesn't exist pure nothing. But if we forgot that behind all these institutions and all these structures are people who react in this way, when you contradict a hard belief, they rise and fight, okay? For good cause and bad cause. Who established that? Who has the power? Who is the best? This is the decision. Regard the history. Why X is a criminal and Z it's a hero? Because Z is the part of the winning part of the history, okay? And all the others, people in the other part of the barricade disappear and become evil. Why? Because we won. It's that democracy that we want to support, to continue to support. What is happening today? What is happening in politics? Nothing very rational, right? But you already refused 10 minutes before that you could be a rational person, like so rational. No, values. And look on the Brexit. They push the button with the England, prevent England to be destroyed by the strangers. What is happening in Italy? We have probably 2 or 3 million workers in Italy. If 3 million Romanian stupid guys go home, Italy go under the water. Okay? What is happening with the magic Brexit? What if all Polish people go home tomorrow? What if all Romanian, Bulgarian, whatever, Chinese people go home from England? The England is like a room with that we close it. But it's very easy to say that. Defend your home. Why we believe that English people who vote for Brexit was stupid? They believe that the home is under attack. Okay? If you are familiar with the adventure movie Robin Hood, the 2018 edition, it's a fabulous movie regarding democracy. Behind all the action, you know, and arrow and fighting money, and is the structure of English and European and American policy. For example, the sheriff of Nottingham go behind the parliament and the people and say, hey, 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 now the Crusades are in Jerusalem. But if we lose that, all the Arabic and Muslim and antiquarians come here and conquer your home, cut your head. Okay? Take your money, take your wife. You need to pay for that. We just protect you. Our political bodies protect us for fear today. We evaluated, in my opinion, we developed institutions in a very rational way, but behind the name, the institution, okay, parliament, police, whatever, there are people who are more and more emotional, and who are more and more emotionally driven because of that. Okay? It's very simple. I make a photo with the children, beat it by a Romanian in the street, 20 minutes after 2,000 Italians in the street, trying to do a very natural things, protecting homes, right? Protecting family, protecting identity. Okay? I lie to you when I say I have a solution. I don't have any solution. I just have a perspective, and it's not a new perspective, it's not my perspective, I didn't invent it. But it's a perspective that say, hey, let's stay sharp and think, are okay our expectancy from our institution, our delegation, what we ask for them, it's what we are or not? Because if we want to be human, if we want to say, hey, 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 take it all, my dear, because, I don't know, because you are a student, because I like to give, because we have to find a way to institutionalize the way that we are humans. Okay? Because if not, we have two planets. We, the people, and they, the institution, the devil, the people who take money, who are corrupted, who are whatever.
For example, if you give it all, somebody's gonna ask, where's the cash? What are you trying to ask me doing?
Okay? Just 1 second to tell you about an experiment that we ran in Siberia, in Romania, in the name of MIT and then O'Reilly. It's called Schroeder experiment. The idea is that if you enforce the law, the corruption will go down. It's also a very rational theory. The idea is that I think this came with 20 years of jail. No, I don't do that. Right? We expect that this is happening and that institutions act in this way, okay, and enforce the law. And then O'Reilly put the opposite and say, okay, if nobody can know that you cheat, that means you will cheat at maximum possible. Okay? Just to be very, very short, he invented an experiment when you can cheat without any consequence. For example, you solve some math problem on a paper, you mark in another paper what is the number of correct solution. The paper with the work, you put it in the shredder and disappear. So no one can say, hey, you lied with that. The maximum number of items possibly to be solved was 20. Okay, so the idea is that this theory is functioning. Everybody, or the average results of this cheating environment will be up to 20. In fact, the world median is at 12. So, you can cheat, and you can steal, and you can do that, and that, and that, and that, and it doesn't happen. The question is why? And we running thousands of interviews, and the best shield against bad behavior are value. And not external value, the value imposed by law, by society, but internal value. And I think that you measure one of that, Irina. When your young people say, I will go and fight for my country, this is not because they are paid, this is not because they hate somebody, but because they have an internal value. And for this point of view, the difference between nationalism and patriotism is huge. And I agree with you. Thank you. You are welcome. So, my dream about this group is that because we're coming from different countries, from East Europe, from West Europe, from Middle Europe, or whatever, and because we came from different area research, probably if we are capable to provide some kind of knowledge, easy to be understood by regular people, and easy to be understood by political people who, let me tell you, they are not the best brains in the world. Okay? Let's agree with that. Probably we are doing an excellent job. It doesn't mean that if we just run regular research, that means research for conferences, for scientific journals, for our students, it's nothing. No, it's big deal. But the world is really hard now. And if people who can produce knowledge and who can produce value, or who can sustain value, doesn't work to cool it down, I don't know what tomorrow means. In Romania, we had a referendum from a left party. This left party was run by a guy 2 times convicted for corruption. Okay? And he wanted to change Romanian environment, establishing constitution that Romania is a country who support and only allow family in his old fashion. Okay? The proposal for referendum was triggered by Orthodox Church. Okay? And I was amazed that 3 million people signed the petition to have a referendum. Almost 2 million was women. And why of that? Because the women want to have a traditional family, meaning a natural one, you know, a home, a husband, children. What was the danger? Traditional family manifest launched by this party and Orthodox Church was for traditional Christian family. That means we are not legal. We are men and you are women. Your objective in the world is to birth child and growing up and feed us. Stay home. Be quiet. It's a problem if you vote or not. And what is happening? Under the emotion that gays family destroy your children because they take it in care and transform them in gays, people, normal people, go and vote and say, we have to protect our families and our children. And this is revenge. And I'm sorry that I used too much time before lunch. I'm sure that if we meet several times and we discuss on the internet, whatever, mail or Skype, or we can have a very consolidated project of research, and probably we can become a voice, not a rational one, not an emotional one, a natural voice, saying that, look, probably we need more time to reflect about our humanity and what we produce like humanity, especially in the field of institution, in order to be capable to going down, to demolish what is not good and construct another one. Okay? Because I truly believe we are not this kind of person, just money, rational, cost, balance. We have art, emotion, value, and probably this is the humanity. Okay? Thank you very much.
Oh, finally we are
This way, Irina.
Well, such a controversial discussion we had inside the presentation, and everybody intends going to lunch now. That if somebody has a very important question, you can ask, but if not, we can transfer discussion to lunch.
Where is the lunch? Here or to go to the restaurant?
Here.
Here.
Just follow.
No, I can't.
I'm sorry, I got carried away with the lunch time.
Just the question was, I count on that. The revolution that analytic psychology brought especially in economy, but also in psychology. But we work test
You don't need
the
to pay
assumption.
because you're a member of organization.
And the assumption you should. Okay? Not in this way, 50-50 or whatever. The most regular decision is okay, I have the chance to be the proposer. Okay, 60-30 is the most frequent answer. You have a distribution regarding professions, because the profession says something about you like person. If you are a psychologist, you are more social, or dedicated to others, and the data are different.
We have already
Economic psychology.
nobody else is here.
The idea is okay, but when we test it in experiment.
Colleagues, I'm glad to start presentation. We have two presentations with my colleagues, and I start from the second, media literacy effect on teenage psychological well-being during hybrid war, because I want to say about hybrid war in Ukraine. As you know, and as we discussed on the first part of our seminar, the case of Ukraine, we have a crisis and we have a military conflict with Russian Federation, not the civil conflict inside the country, but the aggression of other country. And this is the real war. This is the map of the Ukraine. As you see, yes, on the left, this is Ukraine on the map of Europe. It is the Europe, as we think. And this is the red zone. This is the part of Ukraine, which just now not the Ukraine. Not under the Ukraine government. This is the part of Ukraine and part of Ukrainian people who live on this zone, but the Crimea at the map you see, this is annexion zone and joined to Russia officially. And the next red zone is the Donetsk and Lugansk regions, part of these regions, which have the status of occupied zone, because the Russian military forces are in their zone, and the local government is the marionette government, fiction government, criminal government, which named separate, and the fact is they occupied by Russian military forces. The war is the bad things. This occupied zone is the part of region which traditionally names Donbass, not administrative, but traditional names, Donetsk, Bassin, because the coal mines are there, and we have 150 coal mines, and 115 we have not just now because they under occupational territory. We have lost 13% of 13 real factories which works on different industry, defense industry, and we lost 10 parts of port infrastructure and lost 80% of oil and gas deposits. We have on the Crimea Shelf, please. And this is the material part. But we have human losses, and you can view this very, very bad information, because we have losses human and children. This is not one person. One person is the grief too, but we have more persons. And we have internally displaced person. 2 million people must go from home in another city in Ukraine. And as you know, we have more than 32 millions. And because this problem is decided, because another community accept these people, but it is a problem. And we have more than 2,000 children who have this status, internally displacement. This is the real material war, but we have informational component of this war. And because this war named hybrid war. About informational war as part of this war, I want to see you some image. This is a collage from the most popular image which we have if we, which give us Google image. We ask in Ukrainian informational war, and we take it. And this is the collage which I used in different audience, and I show just now because I agree with Alexandra. He said we must go outside the academical place, academical community. We must go to people, different people, not academical situation. This is the people from third age university, for example, or people in different events, on different conference or forums about some problems in community, in local communities. And I ask, what the image that most for us about informational war? What is? And we discuss about it, because some choose one image, some choose another image. The central image, the fight between two countries, flag of Ukraine and flag of Russia. But we don't discuss this image, we discuss about different. And what is your choice? As you think, what is the most informative, the most symbolic image of informational war for Ukrainian people? I answered. This is the woman who washing the brain. But we have informational war with military people, as you see left, and this as a warcraft, and this. But the most informative for people is the washing brain, because it is the main part of informational war. The modification of our thinking modification of our feeling and bringing into our mental space the things which are not our authenticity, but from another, without our will. And the second part is the media trauma, or media trauma, because media which correlates the events, real bad or image, they give the media trauma for audience and for children. At the first, because the children is vulnerability audience, and we work with our national broadcast regulator to implement some ethical codes for defense of the children in this situation of war media trauma. And the television and broadcast company, the biggest broadcast company in Ukraine, take into account this ethical and introduce in redactor code and work with this about three topics. About sex sex trauma, about suicide events, and about children in war situation. Some rules, what we must cover these events of these three topics. Implements in Ukraine, and we continue the work in this direction because we have a problem of violence, media violence, and it is the biggest problem for just now, and we continue the work. This is the psychological targets of information war and media trauma too. But we take it from Russian textbook for preparing the specialist for informational psychological operation. This is the strategy to management informational war operation. The targets of this impact, these operations, is the social optimism and positive future. Olena Vaznesenska have the research about it, and you may read in our materials about it. We have the patriotism and national identity. National, we have many discussed in the country, but in our small laboratory from 10 scientists too, about the national identity and patriotism. And we have a discussion when we proposed include patriotical principle of patriotism in the media education. We have the concept of media education improvement in Ukraine, and we have a new reduction from 2016 when the war is started and we have losses. But it is a discussion because some people don't understand that patriotistic feeling and national identity is the warcraft, is the instrument to defense population in the war situation. It is really because national identity, when I understand what I am as a people of this country. It is not ethnical identity, it is political national identity. As it is not government identity. I feel in my government. No, it is the identity with our country, with Ukraine. And we study well-being and vitality as a target of informational war. And we research the critical thinking and rational thinking as whole, and trust and social cohesion as a resource to overcome the media trauma and opposite the informational aggression. And this is about our methodology, because we have a very, as you know, media psychology have a problem, because we have a science bureaucracy for research, for resource, for money for research. We must to apply the fund, we must to write a project, and so many time, and it is a long process. But the media change quickly when we start for one project and go through bureaucracy to finish and take. Media is changed. It was changed. And this is very, very important for us to make something creative and something, another possibility. And we proposed the all Ukrainian experiments in which we have the panel from different schools which work to introduce media education program in their situation. And part of this work with the schools is the research. It is the joint, it is the community project. People don't have money for this. Researchers don't have money, and our participants of this panel don't have any other motivation unless the motivation know about what is the real situation in media education, in social activistic attitudes, in well-being. They do it because they want this information about all Ukraine. It is a communicative tasks, and we have 5 years for creating this panel, because we started in first experiment with the 8 regions of Ukraine, and just now from 2017 we have all regions, more than 200 schools, and we have a possibility to make representative research which over all Ukrainian situation without occupied and annexed territory. With annex our people. This is the information about part of research which I present about connection between well-being and creative thinking in this situation of UPP. The whole, we have more than 1,600 participants of this pool, but some part of our representation have different number of the participants, because we have some don't answer, and so on. Because I want more than 104 1,400 participants. This is all design of our big research, big panel, about media practices, about media literacy, and about, oh sorry, this is Ukrainian,
Yeah.
about the attitude to war, to lethality, to media heroes, and informational patriotism and reflexive environment. And our presentations all in this seminar is the part of this big panel results. This is our books which we have in Ukrainian about this from laboratory, about our results. Lethality index we proposed as modified larger depression scales as proposed till in 2013 because this author said that this scale don't have the improving effect. They don't propose some negative thinking when we ask about something. And because we take this scale and modify it. You see, when you see some examples of items, if I have problems, I can ask someone from my family for help. And for answers, for alternatives proposed. And depression scales. If participants choose this red sentences as appropriated for you, for him, this is one role to depression scales. But different alternatives may evaluate in the ways where they more or less vitality have more or less vitality. And because we have another modification when we measure the vitality index. It is in the show. And you can see the depression frequency and vitality. Vitality is more normal. This is extensional, and because we use all this scale, and we propose what are my indexes: personal, relational, when my relatives have experience of war, and media, when no I, nor my relatives have no experience of real war, but we have experience of war caused by media. This is the items which propose for answer for these indexes. And we have categories of media trauma. In short, blue is personal, red is relational, and this is media. This is not traumatic. The first column is not traumatic. And zero. And the next column is the more and more traumatic indexes. And as you see, 44% is 44% have not the media traumatic only. More than more than 50 teenagers have a traumatic from media about phone. And different vitality indexes in different category of traumatized teenagers. As you see, the difference is no significant. Different trauma, but no different in vitality. Vitality is the don't connection with trauma directly. But if we see media literacy effects on vitality, we see that we have to moderating effects. Critical thinking and technological media literacy effect. This technological media literacy connected with social, economical level of the family, because some children have not the smartphone, for example, and they don't have the skills to find something and other. In the second presentation, I show the example of items for all this scale. But just now, the trend is the linear trends is show that this is the low index of vitality, this is the high index of vitality, and this is the critical thinking. Is the direct connection between the more critical thinking, the more vitality. And the same, but not the same, trends, but not the same configuration is about technical media literacy. And because, and this is about correlation with critical thinking and with some kind of reflectivity when people communicate about own experience with relatives or friends in real situation, not by social media. And this is conclusion that more than half part of Ukrainian teenagers have media traumatization, personal the small and media the more. Traumatic indexes are fully correlated with the decrease of psychological well-being by depression and more by vitality, but media education, but the moderating through critical thinking, we see that more critical thinking, more vitality, and less depressing. The media education, we conclude that media education is necessary for teenager well-being promotion in Ukraine during hybrid war, not for patriotic feeling only or something else, but about well-being, about vitality, about less depressive feeling, which when we include in media education the task to develop critical thinking, we have instrument and resource for well-being, because the great part of this work is the information. Thank you. you very much. And next.
Would you
maybe-
prefer to discuss this presentation and then shift to the other? I think it will be better. Anybody wants to ask a question or comment?
I have a question. It's pragmatic. Do you have now in Ukraine an ongoing implementation, like a project which aims to influence the teenagers' internet use,
Yes.
and how is it? How you can do this?
Yes, we're building these practices in Ukraine. We started from 2006 when the laboratory was built. And we look for these tasks. We developed task force in different regions, and just now we have more than 200 basis schools which promote in local community and in the region this idea. We have this decision of Ministry of Education, more than 10 programs of course, media education course for small children and for teenagers in the system of lifelong media education. It is really good just now.
Any other questions?
May I say something? I'm pretty impressed of the fact that in Ukraine you are able to combine this very large scale study of media that I understood that anyway is a complex process to get all this authorization, the same in Canada, almost everywhere. Now in Italy even more complex just to get, for example, some questionnaire from an hospital. The time you need for getting an authorization is not a large scale, but even one institution, the passing is already out. So anyway, but what I appreciate is this combination between a large scale that usually are opinion pool where people just reply on the basis of a social desirability criteria. On the contrary, it seemed to me that you save the attention to get psychological reply according to the individual perspective, and the sort of a meta-reflection about what happens when these information are spread through media to promote or to inhibit critical thinking. Because this is the secret that the politicians use to, for example, now in Italy, try to put down the critical thinking, increasing the fear, terror, the fear against the other, no? So the social control for them is higher because they can play propaganda game much easier, no? And so that is interesting, this relation that you find between lethality, critical thinking, and the relation with or not media effect.
Thank you for your question, because it is a realistic situation in Ukraine too. When media system don't work on the critical thinking development. They don't work. They are business, and they want ratings, and they want more people who see some broadcasts, and because you have a system error in the system of media development. But I think we must to promote, to make it understandable for media, for media industry workers. We start this work. Our institute work with the national broadcaster, which organized the company from 2011, and only in last year we have a decision of industry for small going to this idea, defend the children and to make some self-regulation for development of system. The main argument is the people, the young people, don't see television.
You know?
Don't see television. The audience, TV audience of youth decrease currently. When we start monitoring, we have more than 75 teenagers who see television. Just now we have more than 14.
Yes.
They see other.
On the web?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. They have bubbles, informational bubbles. We listen to the first reports by colleagues who must train. And it is the situation which gives the challenge for media industry. And we said, make something, because you will absent at all. And this is, and they listen it. If we say, do the better, they don't listen it. Because we must find the message for media industry. And then we can do something in this situation. But we must go to industry and we must go to education and give the message for the youth, because youth is our future.
Just small comment. If we call television as media, this is the museum, in fact. Media means something completely different for now, especially for young generation, millennials, because this is the web. And the question is, can we control it? There are two sides we can influence. Why? This is the influence of media. Is it possible? The question mark. And second, this is the education of receivers of media. If we can't change, control media, we can educate receivers to be, more conscious. And it is, of course, it is very great challenge for educational system in Poland. I am from Poland. We try to do it, but it is very difficult, because introducing new content to the education program, it is horrible work. But in some countries, my colleague from Finland told me that in Finland there is regular educational program for young people, how to understand messages from media, how to identify fake news, how to identify manipulation, etc. So I think this is the way, from my point of view.
Yes, we must understand that new media is not traditional media. It is the self-regulation consumption, not controlled situation, not controlled spaces. Because we must go to use and give you the media culture for new media. This media culture, the way to develop this media culture is the media creativity. When we develop the situation when pupils make media, make news, for example, disseminate this news in a real situation, and have feedback from audience, they create new media culture in practice, not in the knowledge about it, but in real practices. This is the way. But I don't negation the knowledge as a whole, because it is theoretical understanding of the system of media. It is needed. The commercial factors of this is needed. The timelines of media dissemination is needed. But we are delayed just now. Not only about hybrid form, but in real time. In real time, we must to intensify this work because the media culture is for which occasionally arise have many challenges and not safe for children, because we must more intensive work in this direction. Thank you for your question.
Sorry, you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I have a big problem with this issue. In Romania, we are not under the war, and probably the situation is more, a little bit rational, and I don't even want to imagine how will be my state of mind or my job if I am in the same situation that you are in Ukraine, and I'm really sorry. But out of that, I think that our big effort should be not educate about content, but educate about how to deal with the content.
Yes.
Because, no offense, I am sure that in Ukraine you are the good voice, and you are in the good part of reality. But, critically speaking, you are polarized. You are good, but polarized. Okay? So if we change the perspective, and I will refer now to Romania, not to create, emotion regarding Ukraine. We have a problem with Hungarian tendency to conquer Romania and with the Romanian tendency to conquer. We have, historically speaking, a debate regarding Transylvania. Okay, so it's a very theoretical debate. Political people from Romania use it to gain votes, and Hungarian people from Hungary use it to gain votes. In fact, in Sibiu we have a lot of German and Hungarian people, and we are quite okay between us. But the problem is if we put in the content that, and if we teach it in the school, it's an ideology behind it. It is happening hundreds of years before in Romania. It has happened before the communism. It's doing the communists with ourselves and mystify the history. It's not a case. It's not a proposal. But I think that in nowadays our big effort should be how to train teenager to deal with media, to deal with content, how they will check the content, how they will start critical thinking process. Because if not, they were still captive in the same mechanism of emotions. And I just want to show you one of our results of sharing in Facebook last week. Just one hit, 353,000 people, okay, in, I don't know, 100 hours, and we just boosted with the 25 euros promotion on Facebook. This could be on a good message, on a bad message, depend in which part, you know, of the world you are. But in fact, nobody teach these young people in Romania how to deal with this content, how to think when you are really boosted with something very emotional, with a crushing photo or with a crushing voice. For example, what we are doing here, we launch a very small video regarding environment awareness, and we registered a voice of a child. Okay, in the afternoon at the wine, I will play it for you. It's a very nice child. What? 353,000 hits. Okay, if I do that, if I send the same message, probably I hit I don't know 300.
One sentence about what you're saying. The question how to analyze or to have critical approach to the content is one thing, and but second thing is the problem of brain or mind capacity. Because if we are bombarded thousands of decibels of messages a day, it changed the life strategy, because the previous life strategy was to know to survive. And now it turned to the strategy don't know to survive. I mean to surface the message, because you can observe it everywhere, in every political debate, in everything. Don't know to survive. Just grab a little bit to surface. If there is if debate is longer, deeper, people switch off the TV or something. It is boring. It is too long, too descriptive, to afford it. So I think that this is the problem. Don't know to survive. This is the strategy for 21st century for people.
Last year, in the annual conference of YAREC on SABI in London, a well-known researcher from MIT proved that almost 85% of the messages that the people share or reply or like on the Facebook, they didn't read it. They just read the headline and look on the photo and say, yeah, that's it. They found a part of the people who endorse Trump on the fake news that the Pope supports Trump politics. Okay? And they doesn't care. They pretend now that this is happening, and this is not a fake news. Why? Because it was so in line with the value and with the, you know, non-critical mind or system one of Kahneman.
I want to say that this is very interesting discussion, because you said about feeling, about emotion as the most impact of the media just now.
Hot media, like everyone.
Yes. But it is about practices, and not ratio is about practices. But we must discuss about media culture too. Not only practices, but about culture, about what practices is the best. And we must find the argument. For example, in a polarized society, yes, when one part want to Russia and one part want to Europe. Simplest, reduced suggestion. But for example, I ask, what you want for your children? Do you want the happy for your children? It is connection, all polarized people. because they want happy for this happy life for these children. And what do you think about what is happy life? And we have a way to reduce polarize and develop the third image about our future. This is the way, because we don't start, we may start from practices, but we must move to culture, not to simple practices as they are just now. We must develop new practices and new media practices for youth.
You mean the new practices for the media industry?
Not for media, because media consumption too. Media consumption.
Yeah, I imagine if I ask that in Romania, where we have also schools, not so heavy that in your country. In Romania, almost 75% of population means Europe, Europe, Europe. And the others doesn't say never Russia, but say not Europe, by ourselves. If you ask what you think for your children, all bubbles will say we want the best. The best just with Romania by itself, or the best with Romania by Europe. We live that in the last 2 years in Romania. What is go down? It's go up.
The colleague is waiting for.
I'm trying to say a few things. First, that I think we really think that we can control this kind of processes. Second is that Umberto Eco once said something very that I loved it very much. That each communication change was all the time there were people who wanted to see an integrating way and those who were controversial. I mean, Platon was the first who said, I don't want that we start to write, because if we start to write, our memory we will lose our memory. No, that's Platon said. So I don't understand really if we are looking to what we are just imposing. They are not able to read all the information, to go in deep and so on. But I think people, when we started to use internet, we really changed our ability. And this is what I'm saying. I don't think on this is the human and the human doesn't change in the last 2000 years. Human is changing continuously. And I think that we are in the wild west of the internet era, which just 20 years is nothing in the history of the man. And our abilities are changing. And probably we really don't know how much and in what way. And probably it will change. For me, it's not the deep information that is needed, but how to have different sources and how to have different informations from different sources. We all the time say fake news, this is the fake news, but the other part is saying what we are saying, that that is the fake news.
Yeah.
So in a way, we need to start to have a dialogue and to open our bubbles. We also need to understand that what he's saying is not really a fake news, but what he's saying and what he thinks that's reality. So there are all time ideological polarizations between speeches, between dialogues and so on. This is, I think this is why it's important to have the framework or the meta-theoretical framework of social representation to understand this, that my reality is not the best or the better, or I know what is the best and what is the better. And if I am not able to make this step, I will never be able to have a dialogue from the other part. The children, the politician, the civilians, and anybody else out of our academic bubble. So I finished.
You're completely right, but on the other hand, fake news have a technical definition. It's not about opinion.
Anything have a technical definition.
Okay, but fake news is not about opinion or perspective. When you say, Pope sustain Trump candidature, if
you
it's
think
false,
about history after dating, but just the date that you choose and the first word that you put it, it's an interpretation. It's an interpretation. Facts are all-time interpretations.
I'm sorry, if I am here, it's not an interpretation. If I am or if I am not, physically speaking.
Anna Maria, you wanted to tell something?
I agree with Sarah about the need for our community interest in social representation to develop a sort of meta-perspective, meta-theoretical perspective to develop our critical knowledge. But at the same time, I think that as a social psychology, we still do not really are aware, generally speaking, about the change that technology that seems to have something that is not related indeed with the society because it's produced by industry. And on the contrary, I think, and for example, Umberto Eco was very long-term view about that when he considered the effect, long-term effect of media, that long-term become more and more very short-term. Why I'm saying that? I have learned from a book, indeed, called The Society of Algorithms. That is in the field of economy, indeed, nothing to do with social psychology, but I found this very revealing. The fact that we are not really aware that through the application of technology artifacts, like the algorithm, that organized information, we are not anymore just dealing with the time span that you are considering as a long-term change in the human mind of dealing with information, because the expert who study the evolution of the change in also mental behavior in dealing with information and the change in the effect, the impact on social behavior through this acceleration. For example, they calculate that the change from a way to another, of the way of thinking in the millennium were so different, and now the change are faster and faster and are out in most of the case, but we are not aware that we are not able as a human beings to control the effect of algorithm unless we are not in the power to decide which algorithm, for example, decide for who will win in a very, very, very small fraction of a second between a stock of another. So what I've learned from this book, The Society of Algorithms, in this moment I forget the name, that I also know the author is a woman, is an intelligent one, who starts to study epidemiology of knowledge. Tomorrow I will say.
You can ask Google.
You can hold
I have relations.
Probably I was unclear, but the problem is that even us, we can do what she proposed, to educate for critical thinking, to be able to retrieve different sources, as Sarah said. But we will be more and more under control of a system of news information. And just when something happened, like Trump was in UK, in London, last week, and he said just fake news that there are people against him in the street. At the same time, in this, on television, there was Trump saying that he's a fake news, and the people, the street, which was completely full of people against him, with and this was really, a contrasting. But generally speaking, far from this evidence that can really, touch us, is that, for example, they have a study, developmental psychology, a study that now, in some well-advanced society, children are not able to, they start first to use touch screen before reading. And when they have to read, and the critical thinking we are accustomed require a longer time, because you needed to think, to reflect, to develop, as you say, meta-knowledge. And now we are in a nice setting of a society dominated by the technology, who take the power of knowledge, the children are not able anymore to learn how to read in a classical way because they just touch and move. There is a, you know, and so it's because we are thinking that we have to educate them to critical thinking using, in a certain sense, what we have learned with this critical thinking to be able
it's
to
our
compare.
ideology.
But at the same time, the new generation has developed a different skill, no? And this is difficult because we too are dominated by algorithm. Look what happened for the academic career. We are dominated by the algorithm constructed by Elsevier, Web of Science, and the people in power to decide which algorithm to use to retrieve from your 700 publications just those who are in their databases. No? This is just an example, but this happens in the economy, and how we deal with that? We cannot become everybody. I learned a lot from my son, who is a computer science engineer, but not all the social scientists can become engineers, you know? But indeed, we live in a society where we are dominated for this organization of knowledge.
About algorithm in the game, computer game. Two boys communicate. What you do on second level? I discussed about the way with old women who stay on that level. I said I give gift. Nobody, nothing. I don't go through this old woman. Second way, say, kill her, kill, and go. This is the game reality. This is the reality of algorithms, as you say, because we have a great challenge, but we are not the part of technology. The people made technology, and we must go to people and conversation about the philosophy of our life. I think so. And I do so in our practices because we don't give young people the decision. We might give the environment where they make decision about their practices and about their free time spending. And we must give you whole situation and our thinking about the situation. And this is their life. And they regulated their consumption. But when we give the bicycle for small children, go. We said, don't go for outer road. This is not safe. Don't go. But when we give the smartphone, we don't say anything. Go. But we must say about what is the safe, what is don't safe, and what is the rule for self-regulation. What you must go when you have bad mood. Go to social media and pick another children, cyberbullying another children, or maybe you self-regulated offline and after go to online. This is the rules, and we must propose to children to make these rules himself, herself together, and this is the way I think. And I must go to say you about the second presentation because this presentation has the answer for some item in this discussion. I maybe close.
I need to ask you to keep the time during the second presentation because we have.
May I ask a question about schedule because I am completely lost. Where we are, what is behind us, what is above us.
May I just tell you that I remember the name of the author is Knor Cipina. Knor Cipina is a great book, really. It's a sociology of knowledge. Very interesting.
I tell about this for 10 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes, and according to, as for the program, we absolutely destroyed the program. But that is wonderful. I intentionally didn't want to keep to the program very strictly because discussion is much more important than keeping to the program, to my opinion. And ideas we discuss here probably are better inspired in such a mood, quite flexible and quite open. So we have about 7 presentations, or maybe more.
Not representative.
Because we were very creative in discussion, we have to talk to the discussion, especially we have to put me
But maybe ideas which will be set through the discussion would be very valuable. Unfortunately, we have video which can be transmitted later on from us to students and for wider audience. And this discussion can be also very valuable for them. But I will ask you to keep a presentation shorter.
I try.
But when we have some coffee, because
This is a schedule about joint of our institution of social and political psychology and institution of reflexive investigation and specialization. His director was is my husband, Yona Mikhaila, and Institute of Reflexive Investigation and Specialization give the possibility to make new technology of representative reflexivity, which connected with tools, with panels, and this technology about what is happened when we have a result and give this result to other people. This is about it. But some theoretical background.
I'm sorry, we don't see presentation. Something just happened again.
And no? We have a publication last year, but don't have presentation. And some theoretical background you may read in the last year materials because it is very simple to go faster because we have a proposition of this presentation more about economical part of our seminar because this technology of representative reflexivity is proposed as a way to realization to implementation the principle of reflexive competitiveness. Not pure competitiveness in build world, but conscientiousness competition. And what is representative reflection? We have a pool and we have a result of joint assessment, some things. For example, occupational prestige rating.